The Mariner East construction gets shut down, and Trulia gets sued over Zillow Group's Premier Agent program. Tune in to Toole Time right now. I'm Tom Toole. She's Jess Lion. We're back post-Thanksgiving Toole Time. Very exciting stuff. It looks like the world woke up this week after a very sleepy weekend. Got some real estate news, some local news. So the Mariner East Pipeline. So for those of you who don't know what the Mariner East Pipeline is, it is a pipeline that will transport fuel sources all across Pennsylvania and Ohio. And the construction's happening like right here by our office, literally right around our office, and this has been a hot topic.
Every day, coming to work.
Well, and it's people have been talking about this, and they've bought land from some people, bought pieces of their lots. So over the weekend in Edgemont Township, there was 40 protesters, and they stopped construction on the pipeline. So Jess, what do you think about all this?
Reading through the article, I hear why they stopped it. Some residents were mad about the hours that the construction was going on, saying that it was out of hours, late at night, or it was too early, or the length of time that they were completing the construction was not within the hours that they were supposed to. So I get that. Other residents were concerned about leakage into their water wells, contaminated water. I'd be really pissed off as well. I understand what their complaints are. However, I don't know if that's going to change anything.
Yeah, well, this has been a hot topic around here for a while. I mean, we constantly get asked, what's this going to do to home values in the area?
Buyers are very concerned.
Well, and sellers are a little worried, too.
Oh, sure.
You know, I've had listings where they actually sold a piece of the land in the back of the lot to the pipeline, just so the pipeline could run through there, and it wasn't on the property. So, I mean, it happens, and it's something that's been going on for a while. You know, everyone has a right to protest, and I appreciate where these folks are coming from. I'm not clear that anything they're going to do right now is going to stop this project from happening. They've gotten all the approvals. They've gone through all the red tape.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why you have a process like that, and
it's going to be done at the end of next year.
Maybe they should have protested a little sooner. I don't know what the history is on these folks. I mean, certainly there's concerns there that come out. I get it. I can't imagine that there's not going to be heavy regulation surrounding any sort of construction here around this pipeline. I just can't see that happening with the amount of money being spent, with the approvals needed, especially with what's going on in the fuel industries right now. I don't know that it's their contention point is legitimate. I don't know that it's possible. I don't know that it's going to happen. And at the same time, you got a right to protest, so I'm all for it. To your point, I don't see it changing anything.
Maybe a little bit too late. They have a spokesperson for the pipeline safety. There's this group. Maybe if they spoke up a little bit sooner, but nothing's changing now. So maybe those who are doing construction need to really be aware of, what hours. I mean, because it is disruptive to the community. You go down 352 and it's right on the back of people's backyards. So I'd be pretty annoyed too if it's like super late or super early or during a holiday, something like that.
It's also a repurposed pipeline.
Yeah.
This isn't like brand new. And this is something that's bringing a lot of jobs to Pennsylvania. It's bringing a lot of money into the economy. So,
plus and minuses to every story, right?
Well, it's already been approved. It's no different than these things where something's approved and then people come out and complain after the fact. You've got to, the sooner you address a problem, the better. And this goes way past just this particular issue. In general, when you've got an issue with something, bring it up at the beginning and don't let it lie and think you're going to fix it later, because it just doesn't happen. I mean, this is a big job. This has been going on since the first part was completed in late 2014.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, that's 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and that was Mariner East 1. Then Mariner East 2, that was in 2017, and the Pennsylvania DEP issued permits for each county where the project will cross. So it's not like they haven't gotten approvals here.
Right.
So
Maybe just be a little bit more careful.
Well, there's people that are working here, too. I mean, what's frustrating is they're trying to get their job done. They've got families to go home to.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, you have every right to protest. They shut down construction for like a couple hours.
Congratulations.
I mean, and certainly if it's, I just don't know what's going to change.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what else you're going to do with it.
So,
but a hot topic nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
More interestingly, Trulia who was owned by Zillow Group.
Yes.
So it's basically Zillow. Their search portal, which is very similar to Zillow's, they got sued by a broker over its advertising business. So specifically, the lawsuit was filed in the Eastern District of New York. It was reported by The Real Deal. The agent suing them, the broker suing them, is looking for $5 million in damages from the company, claiming its practices are unfair and deceptive towards traditional real estate brokers and listing agents and cause confusion, economic harm, and deception. So what they meant was they felt that people weren't getting in touch with the right agent. They thought they were talking to the listing agent, and they weren't, is the crux of the suit.
Yeah.
So what do you think about all this, Jess?
My rebuttal to this is there is a reason that these agents are premier agents in the first place. And maybe you should, if you're a broker, if you're an agent, maybe look into becoming a premier agent and what the qualifications are to become one. But these premier agents, they have the reviews, they have the response time, they're getting in touch with the buyers right away who the buyers are inquiring about a listing. They want to know something about a listing. You should be getting in touch with them right away. So I think that to the broker who's suing them, maybe try and be a premier agent. That's what I would say.
So, I mean, that's premier agents now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, originally premier agents, when they came out, you were paying money to appear on the website. That's what the program was. Now it's a little different. And
Okay.
the reason why, Zillow has made this change where they call in, they get somebody, is because people weren't picking up the phone half the time. And that was a legitimate number from Greg Schwartz, the ex-president, who since left since our last show. People weren't getting a call back, right? So the lawyer they hired, he's filed 27 lawsuits against ice cream and yogurt companies over synthetic sugar they use, and the suit is aiming for class action status. Was by a guy from Queens, Andrew Kim, and an unnamed broker who represents 6 agents. And, they said they lose out on potential customers. I don't know how you don't invest in this in your business. This is an option for everybody. Zillow's an advertising site. It's not the MLS. It's not a company-specific site. It's for anyone to participate in. And if you don't like it, you don't have to work with them.
Exactly.
And it's all legal. That's no different than when you have a website. Let's say it's just a team website or a company website, and you can search all the listings that aren't listed by that company. This is legal.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they're really concerned about buyers being able to get in touch with them as a listing agent, I mean, their information is still on the listing on Zillow.
They listed there.
If they're really concerned about it, your information is there. Like at the bottom of the page on Zillow, it'll say listing agent. You just have to search for it a little bit harder if you really want to get in touch with the listing agent, but it's still there.
Well, it says that. It says, in their response, they said, if a consumer wants to do more research, we provide them with the necessary information for this to happen.
Yeah.
So they are doing that, and that's just like an IDX feed that most agents have. Any agent has a website with listings on it that aren't just theirs. It's an IDX feed that has all the listings. That's the law. It's legal. They're not doing anything wrong. This is another example of a lawsuit that they're going to keep coming at Zillow.
Everybody's firing at them.
Well, that's what happens when you're a successful company.
Yeah.
People come after you because that
haters.
happens to anybody. This lawsuit to me, it's a classic example of an agent saying, "Hey, we're going to hide all the data. You have to come to us." That's not transparent. That's not what's best for the consumer, and that's not doing business in 2019 in the real estate market, plain and simple. So I hope this
isn't
thing
going to
gets
go anywhere.
Well, they're talking about going class action, and I would really hope it doesn't go that far. That to me would be silly.
Yeah, silly stuff. Okay, I have a quote for us today. Excuse me.
Was that the quote?
That's not the quote.
It's a good one.
The quote is, so I was listening to A Pretty Big Deal. It's a podcast by Ashley Graham, who is a supermodel. She is a activist for body positivity, things like that. She was speaking to Whitney Cummins, who is a comedian, and she said, she was talking about her schedule and planning and everything like that. It's a really cool podcast. You should check it out. But she said, it's pretty simple. Planning is freedom. And it made a lot of sense in my head, and I was like, wow.
So why did it make sense?
It made sense to me because there have been times when I haven't planned enough, and you just are at the mercy of everything else. Everything else in your schedule, you kind of have to watch it fall into place, whereas if you plan, you can kind of arrange it so you can have it work out for you, and you can kind of pick and choose what your activities are. Because I've definitely been on the other side of it, where you don't plan ahead, everything kind of goes up in flames to crap, and it's your fault. And when you don't do that, you definitely have the flexibility to kind of make your own day.
Planning is definitely freedom. I find this interesting coming from Whitney Cummins. I've heard numerous interviews with her on the Howard Stern show.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, I mean, she's very funny, number one.
She's funny.
More importantly, she had a couple shows on network TV. One was on NBC where she was the star, and the other one was Two Broke Girls. Two Broke Girls has gone into syndication because she's a writer on that show. She's not in the show. On her show Whitney on NBC, and this was like one of the last shows I can even remember watching on network television. She came out, and they made like, this was part of the interview more so, and what she said was that she felt much more pressure on that because she was in the show, and she was dealing with the criticism. There was a lot of pressure on her producing ratings, results, all that sort of stuff, rather than doing what she was good at, which was stand up, writing jokes, all those sort of things. And when she planned out what she wanted to do moving forward, she thought it was a successful show. I would maybe disagree with that from what I saw because it got canceled after 2 seasons. More importantly, now that she plans out what she wants to do and the kind of business that she wants to have or the kind of career, because it's a career and a business, she's the business.
Sure, yeah.
She has come across like much more free on the, like if you listen to the interviews, and you can go to YouTube or you can go to the SiriusXM app if you're that interested. I find that very interesting hearing that quote now, knowing the history behind her, because being a comedian is like, it's one of the toughest gigs out there because you have to get up on stage and it's on you to make everyone laugh. And she's really good at that. Maybe not so good at the, hey, I'm
TV
relying
shows.
on, well, then you're listening to critics. You're listening to what people are looking at, and the ratings for TV suck anyway because no one watches network TV anymore. My kids don't even, all they watch is Netflix.
iPad.
Well, I mean, sometimes, but it's everything streamed, right? So knowing that she's looking for freedom and making sure everything's planned out, because when you have a plan, whether it's a plan how I'm going to run my business, a plan to get in shape, a plan for the day, a plan for the holiday season coming up, because everyone's got a bunch of distractions. When there's that plan there, you have the freedom to do what you want because you have the stuff planned that you need to get done. So I found that very interesting hearing that quote, knowing kind of the history of her, because
It's probably
when you work for a network, you don't get to plan anything. You do what they tell you, period. And that's a very different thing than having your own career and kind of writing your own ticket. So I found that very interesting. That was a good quote.
She was going through kind of this topic of, I guess she like froze her eggs, and that way she could plan to have kids down the road. And she was talking about how she was overwhelmed with work and everything like that previously in the podcast. But it just made her so much more present, and it made her do so much better at work, and she put more time into her work, and she didn't have to worry about kids like that. So it just takes a lot of, when you plan, it takes a lot of pressure, and you can be more in the now.
That was some good perspective there. I didn't know that's what happened. Very cool.
Yeah.
So if you want some freedom, come up with a plan.
I like it.
Mind-blowing. Actually, it's not that mind-blowing, but it's a simple way to put it. So very cool. Catch you guys next week. Thanks for watching.